Hi, buongiorno. So this session is to finish what I started in my previous recording or my previous session, when we saw the conjugation of regular verbs in Italian, of course. That's where we are. So this is again for beginners, for beginner levels, and it is always useful for intermediate or higher levels if they need a little revision, or sometimes because there are always things that we miss or we forget. So let's start immediately sharing our image of regular verbs. In fact, in the previous session, I didn't say these are regular verbs. Regular verbs, in comparison to irregular verbs, which we are not going to talk about today, are those verbs that when you are conjugating, they have very strict rules, so they don't do what they want. Unlike the irregular verbs, is that so? Yeah, they do follow very strict rules when it comes to conjugation. So in the previous session, we talked about the persons, let's call them like this, that grammar terminology is personal pronouns or subject pronouns, which are these little words that mean I, you, he, she. We skip this one. We, you plural, and they. We spoke about the fact that there are three groups of verbs in their infinitive form, which is, let's say, the original form of the verb before being conjugated. The group with more verbs ending are, like lavorare, mangiare, fare, andare. Most of the verbs will be it will end in are, and most of the verbs are regular. The second conjugation are the verbs in ere, or the second group of verbs are the verbs in ere, like prendere. And the third group are the verbs in ire, like aprire. Last time I said that we have a lot of verbs that end in are, a bit less that end in ere, and even less that end in ire. So I skipped, or I didn't cover this, what I call a subgroup of ire, which is a very, very small group of verbs which does end in ire. However, they have a different conjugation. Some of you will recognize it. We'll see it in a bit. So, as we said, when we want to conjugate these regular verbs, we drop ire from the infinitive and we add our endings here to what we have left, to the root of the word. So once we drop ire, we end up with ap here. This verb aprire means to open. And then to the root, we add the endings. Just as a reminder, we have the endings which are just the same for io, for the three groups. The ending is o. For tu is E for the three groups. Also for the three groups is the same for noi, we, which is iamo. And then I follow this this order. For voi, which is you plural, we have ate, ete, and ite. And then this he, she, lui, lei, and loro, which is they have a similarity in the sense that the verbs that belong to the group in are see, we have a, so, for lui, lei, and hanno for loro. Instead, these two groups of verbs are more similar to each other. They have the ending in e for lui, lei, and ono for loro. So if we can observe this one a little bit, can you see? So we have the verb finire, it is in ire. However, once we drop ire, we are not only adding ending o, I, e, iamo, ite, ono. We're adding something different. In fact, the only ones that do conjugate exactly like this main group are noi and voi. Can you see we have iamo here and ite here, so they're just the same. Only the other ones, the other persons are different. So here, instead of just adding o, we are adding isco. So we have finisco. Here for tu, instead of just adding I, we are adding isci, finisci. For lui, lei, we are not only adding e, we are adding isce, finisce. And finally, for loro, we are not only adding ono, we are adding iscono, finiscono. So as I said, we have a few, not many verbs that belong to this so-called subgroup. And is the best idea for, at the beginning at least, is to learn maybe a few, 2 or 3, or to remember 2 or 3 for the moment, which are more useful and the ones that you're going to use the most. Finire, to finish, is a very important verb. And then here you've got a few suggestions. You have capire, to understand, and maybe preferire, to prefer. I'm sure everybody has heard capisci, which is maybe in some mafia movie. So what they say is not capisci, is capisci. Although obviously the last letter is missed by the English speakers ear. So what they're saying is capisci? It's not capisci. It's not capisci. Capisci does not exist. But if we want to use the verb capire, to understand, it would be io capisco, I understand. Tu capisci, you understand. Lui o lei capisce, he, she understands. These two, as we said, they're just the same. Noi capiamo, voi capite. And finally, loro capiscono, they understand. So as we said, it does still, it's still considered regular verb, like finire, like this. As I said, we have a short list here of verbs that behave, let's say, like finire. So they're still regular, but they have a slightly different conjugation from these ones. And in general, the other, the 3 groups as well. So as I said, maybe 3 verbs that you can learn from this smaller group of verbs in ire are finire, to finish, capire, to understand, preferire, to prefer. It is a little bit difficult to remember, especially when you're reading it. Oh, is it sure? Is it cur? How is it finish or finisco? That is something, again, that sometimes can take a while to learn how to pronounce. Sometimes it's better to concentrate on the sound without looking at how it's written. So you memorize the sound and then you observe the actual letters that you have. which is probably easier than doing the opposite, the other way around, where you learn this sound is written in a certain way. So I'm gonna analyze, I've got these letters, I'm going to pronounce them like that. Because if you don't remember the rule, then you can get confused. Instead, if you remember, I finish is finisco. I understand is capisco. I prefer is preferisco. So you learn it correctly, and then you can concentrate afterwards on how to write it. I think so. This is just a very short, very brief session just to cover this very small group of verbs in ire. And so just to finish off really what I started in the previous session, where we have the conjugation of regular verbs in Italian. I'll stop sharing. And now, as I said before, please feel free to ask any questions you want, any things that you think you don't quite grasp or you forgot. And yeah, ask me, as I said, any clarification about anything you are challenged with when it comes to Italian. I will see you on our next session. So bye for now. Ciao.